is a successful lawyer. They have 3 children. Usha has Indian origins, and that's why there are parallels being drawn to Kamala Harris and JD Vance as well. Now, JD Vance is someone who has served in the US military. He was a public relations officer, so he's a Marine veteran. Later on, he went to Ohio State University. He went to Yale as well. And now he is a backer of Donald Trump and his key policies as well. We've got a report from CNBC International from Milwaukee on this pick by Donald Trump and what this means for the Republican election campaign. Let's play this out for our viewers. Bree Jackson getting us this report.
Republicans here at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee made it official, formally declaring former President Trump their 2024 presidential nominee after a roll call vote Monday. Last night, Mr. Trump joined his family and his newly announced running mate, JD Vance. The 39-year-old senator says he's bringing loyalty to the Republican ticket. Here's what we know about the first-term senator. JD Vance was a Trump critic back in 2016, but he has now become one of his biggest allies. Vance is probably best known for his memoir, Hillbilly Elegy. He's a former Marine and graduated from Yale Law School. Now, if elected, JD Vance would be the 3rd youngest vice president in U.S. history. On Thursday, former President Trump is set to formally accept the nomination here at the Republican National Convention. He says he threw out his planned speech after the shooting on Saturday. He is now describing his new remarks as more unifying.
All right, so Bree was giving us a sense of what's gone into choosing JD Vance. Let me go across to Mayank Chhaya, a well-known columnist and journalist who is joining us right now from the United States. Mayank, thank you very much for joining us on the program. How is this going to help Donald Trump, having someone like 39-year-old JD Vance, who served in the U.S. military, represents blue-collar workers, who has had a working-class background in the United States?
Thank you for your invitation, Parikshit. It's a great pleasure to be on. The interesting part for me, as someone who has been observing this for a while, is that Donald Trump seems to have decided that he is going to win. And in choosing JD Vance, who is widely being seen now as a sort of successor for the next 20, 30 years, given his rather young age. As you mentioned, he's just 39 years old. I seriously wonder whether he's going to expand beyond Trump's already very solid mega base. Some people are expecting that Trump might choose someone like, say, Marco Rubio, the Florida senator, in order for him to expand to the Hispanic community and beyond. But in choosing JD Vance, I think it's perhaps a signal that he is self-assured, especially after the assassination attempt, that sympathy wave would probably help him ride it all the way to the White House one more time.
All right, let me also get in Neelam Deo, former Indian diplomat, a senior member of the Gateway House think tank as well. Neelam Deo, how do you see developments taking place in the presidential campaign in the United States? JD Vance is going to be the running mate of Donald Trump. What do you think has changed since 2016? In 2016, Vance was a strong critic of Donald Trump, and now he's one of the biggest loyalists.
Well, you know, I think we should ignore in some ways what they say about each other in the primaries, because they all criticize each other. All the people who were on the list for potential vice presidents, Marco Rubio, everybody, Nikki Haley wanted to get on it. They've all been harshly critical of former President Trump. The same applies to the Democrats. I mean, you know, the present vice president had been harsh on President Biden in regard to race issues. So that I think you should ignore. What is important is that JD Vance is now passing himself off as some kind of blue working class person. He's not. His family was very poor, but he has a degree from Yale University. He has worked in private equity. He is not someone who has led a hard scrabble life. His childhood, yes. I think this we should anticipate, that Trump had to pick someone who may have been critical in the past.
Right. Ms. Deo, what I'd also like to understand from you, Kamala Harris was the running mate of Joe Biden when he was running as the Democrat candidate for president. Here you have JD Vance, a 39-year-old who's married to an Indian origin, Usha Chilukuri, a very successful litigator, lawyer in San Francisco. Do you think his personal family background, including the origins of his wife, may have gone into the calculations of Donald Trump and his camp?
I actually doubt it, because, there were others who have similar backgrounds mixed, like Nikki Haley, who is just like, J.D. Vance's wife, the child of immigrant Indians, or there was, Bobby Jindal at one time, who was a rising star. I don't think it was a big item in consideration that his wife is of Indian origin, but that his wife is a successful lawyer herself. That may have been a consideration, but the fact that she is not a white American woman can be helpful in arguing that the accusations of racism against Trump and against many Republicans, those are not valid accusations.
Right. Now, let me go across to Mayank Chhaya once again. Mayank, one of the reasons why Mike Pence had been chosen by Donald Trump was because he would appeal to a strong Christian population in the United States. What do you think JD Vance brings to the table for Donald Trump right now? Do you think he helps him gain votes in certain industrial belts in the United States? Or at least that's what Donald Trump and his camp thinks?
I seriously wonder about that. I think the calculation here seems to be for Donald Trump that once he leaves the stage, there could be someone like JD Vance who could expand, giving sort of an ideological underpinning to Trump's thinking, because Trump is not known as an ideological person at all. He's in the moment politician, rather impulsive. He reacts to the moment and says things. Unlike JD Vance, who has, I'm reading from media reports, done quite a remarkable job in giving it sort of ideological legs to the mega movement, which Trump has been riding since 2016. So my sense is that JD Vance may bring some value in terms of the industrial belt that you were talking about, but he's certainly not the blue-collar type, as my fellow panelists pointed out. He is a Yale graduate. He has had a fairly high-profile life in many ways, and that was helped to a great extent by his best-selling memoir, Hillbilly Elegy, which was mainly about middle-class dysfunction in the Middle America. It was rather controversial. So I don't think that's the calculation here. It's more about Trump being self-assured that this is perhaps going his way now.
All right, let me go back to Ambassador Deo right now. Ambassador Deo, if Donald Trump were to win the election and 39-year-old JD Vance becomes vice president, does this in a way confirm him as the Republican presidential nominee for the next presidential election?
That would be the normal practice. Like, for instance, now in the debate around President Biden, in case he agrees to step aside, then the normal thing would be for Kamala Harris to be the Democratic candidate. But there are lots of people in the Democratic Party who argue that she has issues. She may not be their best candidate. So I think, yes, if normal previous practice is followed. But, things in politics in the United States and actually everywhere are changing so rapidly that today nothing can be taken for granted. It is a fact, as Mr. Mayank has pointed out, that JD Vance is ideological about the MAGA platform, perhaps more than President Trump himself articulates. But on the other hand, I think you would have to wait and see 4 years from now if this ticket wins, whether JD Vance is acceptable to whoever are the players in the Republican establishment at the time.
Right. Also, Mayank, when we speak about the assassination attempt on Donald Trump, do you think that really moves the sympathy factor in a strong way towards Donald Trump, almost sealing the fate of this election campaign? Or do you think it's still too early, it's a volatile campaign, anything can happen?
For a while, I'm sure he would be able to ride it, but as bigger issues begin to creep back again into the debate, which is what President Biden has been trying, I think there may be some difference, but at this point, it would be perhaps reasonable for MAGA supporters to think that Trump has it in his bag. I seriously wonder, because we still have about 4 months to go and things can change dramatically, because the basic point that the Democrats have been making about Trump being an existential threat to fundamentals of democracy, that remains. And even yesterday in his interview with Lester Holt on NBC, he pointed out that. So I don't think the assassination attempt, as grotesque and tragic it was, is going to give him the kind of wave that some people may expect. But for now, of course, he's seen as a true blue warrior. You must have seen the way he clenched his fist and raised it in the air in the immediate few seconds of being shot at. So the man knows how to use the media, and he did an exceptional job in that sense.
Okay, my final question to Ambassador Neelam Deo. Ambassador Deo, we still have about 3 to 4 months for this election to conclude. What do you think JD Vance brings to the table for Donald Trump to complete his election campaign? Right now, he's in the lead. He is considered to be a favorite to win the election. Biden, his approval ratings are not very high because of his health, because of the fumbles, the statements that he's made over the past few days, the mistakes he's made during the campaign while speaking. But at the same time, what will Trump need to continue this momentum, and how does JD Vance help him in the next few months?
So I think it's important that JD Vance is from Iowa. He's a senator from Iowa. It is these Midwestern states and Virginia which are swing states. And these states can, there are certain states which in any case the Democrats are going to win, like California or New York. There are other states which the Republicans are anyway going to win. But it is in these states, like Ohio, like Iowa, like Michigan, where the swing of the vote by 1 percentage point even can make a difference. And JD Vance may be able to help Trump to swing those states, may be able to help to swing those states.
All right. Thank you very much, Ambassador Deo and Mayank Chhaya, for joining us for that excellent conversation. Let's see what happens in the election campaign over the next few months. That's all we have time for on this segment on the U.S. presidential election. But don't go anywhere. News Center continues. We're taking a short break. When we are back, we're going to be talking about the electric vehicle mobility R&D roadmap, which has been released by the principal scientific advisor to the central government, Professor Ajay Sood. It's a 1,200 crore roadmap that has been prepared. Why is it important? We'll get you that exclusive conversation with the principal scientific advisor himself right after this break. Welcome back. You're watching News Center. We spoke exclusively to the Indian government's principal scientific advisor, Professor Ajay Sood, and we caught up with him about the electric vehicle mobility R&D roadmap that has been launched by his office. Why is it important? This is because Ajay Sood estimates that 1,200 crores would be needed to incentivize R&D in the country in 30 to 34 critical areas of electric mobility. Now, this is important because we need to reduce import dependence, especially on countries like China. We need to increase the use of renewable energy in fueling our electric vehicles which run on the roads, and we need to make sure that we get those results in manufacturing as well. When it comes to the debate between hybrid, CNG, ethanol and electric, he said it's not this or that. All technologies can judiciously coexist in India. Listen in to this exclusive interview.
In the first half of this year, from January to June, almost 9.3 lakh vehicles, e-vehicles have been introduced. Of course, almost 89% is two-wheeler and three-wheeler, which is good for our, because that's how our economy, we don't have to copy the West, but there are four-wheelers also. So you can realize that this mobility sector is a very important component in our economy, at the same time meeting our sustainability goal. Right now, this growth which I mentioned is fueled not fully by indigenous technologies. So there is a import component, and what we are asking in this report, the whole premise of this report is, what do we need to do now in R&D so that we have the leadership role 3 or 5 years down the line. Otherwise, we will be always chasing and catching up. So this R&D roadmap is not for tomorrow, because what we have identified 34 problem statements which cover all aspects of e-mobility,